Internet, you lied to me. You told me Dvorak was superior to Qwerty. It was a long fling, 13 years in fact, but it ended in heartbreak. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about why I switched away from using Dvorak after nearly 13 years and why you shouldn't consider it if you're just learning to touch type. Trust me, I understand the allure. Back in 2008, I was taking a semester off from college, planning to go back the next semester to study computer science. I had a bunch of free time on my hand and decided, you know, it's finally time I learned to touch type so that I could be more efficient and productive in my daily life. I stumbled upon a forum where I heard people talking about Dvorak, some weird, obscure keyboard layout that I'd never heard of before. And everyone was saying how great it was, how much superior it was to Qwerty. And you know, my inner geek was like just flying, soaring. I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm learning Dvorak. It seemed to have all the answers. Firstly, I reasoned it'd be easier for me to learn than Qwerty. You know, I wouldn't be able to carry over any of my bad habits, or I wouldn't be able to look at the keyboard and just, you know, hunt and peck because the keys would be labeled differently. Next, it was designed for efficiency in typing the English language. I mean, the world's fastest typer, Barbara Blackburn, was a Dvorak user. It was arguably better for RSI, and so you wouldn't develop any pain because most of the letters you need to commonly type were all on the home row. You didn't need to move the fingers as much. And most importantly, it'd make me look cool. Okay, maybe that last one's a bit of a stretch, but you know, hey, I'd be different, unique. That appealed to my inner geek, you know? I do this way, you know, I type Dvorak, not that lousy Qwerty layout that all of y'all type. All in all, it looked like Dvorak was going to be my answer to reaching an insane level of productivity. And you know what? It kind of worked. It was awesome at first, until it wasn't. After a year or two, I realized that I had made a mistake and I should have just learned to touch type Qwerty right from the beginning. You know, there are three main issues that I ran into over the past 13 years. The first of these is, you know, kind of actually the least important, and that's just on-screen keyboards. On iOS, it's all in the Qwerty layout. You can't change to a Dvorak layout without downloading a third-party keyboard app, and they all stink. Sure. When you attach an external hardware keyboard, you can set it up as a Dvorak layout, but not the software keyboard.
The buttons and the controls can't change. They can't change for each application, and they can't change down the road if you think of another great idea you want to add to this product. Well, how do you solve this?
The much bigger issue, and the first one that really made me reconsider my decision about learning Dvorak, was sharing of devices. Face it, at some point in your life, you are going to be using another person's computer, and it's just gonna be a terribly frustrating experience if you can't sit down and type like you're used to type. My mom will ask me for help on her computer and I'll pull it over and try to type, and it's just a painful experience. I'm not as productive as I normally am. And that frustration just builds up. Likewise, anytime someone uses your computer, it'll be a painful experience for them. My wife Yolanda and I, we use the same computer. Sure, her account may be set up differently, but it's a pain and a hassle. Or when I'm traveling for work, a bunch of us are working on the same code together, it's nice to just be able to slide over my laptop and have someone else type for a little bit if they have an idea. I can't do that if I'm using the Dvorak layout. The big issue, the one that finally pushed me over the edge, was that some apps just don't respect proper key bindings. Say you're opening your email app, you want to write a new email, you press Command N to open up the new email. Works, right? Oh no, it doesn't. This app uses Command B. Why? Well, because they're stupid, that's why. They've hard-coded the keyboard shortcut to be the physical N key, not the logical key at that location. What's up with that? It's completely terrible. Anyway, so this was where my final straw was pulled. I'm sure you've noticed the similarity between all three of these problems here. And that's just, I was fighting the default. Because of accidents of history, Qwerty has become the default layout. And when you fight against the default, you're in for some frustrations. Sometimes it's worth it. Other times, as in with using Dvorak, it's not. A couple of months ago, I finally took the plunge and switched to Qwerty after using Dvorak for 13 years. It was very painful at first. I mean, I dropped from typing 85 words per minute down to about 10 on my first day, and it was terrible. So slow for those first couple of weeks. But you know, after a couple of weeks, I had reached 40 words per minute, which I found was the tipping point for me. I was no longer daily frustrated, and I was already glad I had made the switch. Now, Without any further active practice, I type at 65 words per minute, no problem. Yeah, I'll probably invest some time now to do some more practice to bump it back up to 85 words per minute. I wish I made this transition years ago. It would have saved me so much frustration and therefore would have made me more productive in the long run. Yes, personally, I would prefer to be typing in the Dvorak layout. But you know, we live in a world where Qwerty is the norm. You'll be fighting problems all along the way. And for a keyboard layout, it's just not worth it. All those annoyances I described earlier were not huge time sinks. They were all easily solved, but they were little hits of emotional frustration that just built up into large annoyances over time. If your main reason for considering the Dvorak keyboard layout or any alternative keyboard layout is for RSI issues, let me give you a suggestion first. Instead of switching keyboard layouts, stick with Qwerty, learn that well, but just switch up your keyboard or your work environment a little bit. I found that helps me the most. So instead of using just your laptop's chiclet keyboard, maybe get an ergonomic mechanical keyboard and alternate between the two every other day or something like that. That change is what will make the biggest difference in the long run for RSI. Ease often triumphs small efficiency gains. Aim to get rid of all these little annoyances in your life because over time, they'll add up to be big frustrations. And for 13 years, Dvorak was one big frustration. Anytime you're about to make a change to a system default, take a pause for a moment and really reflect and consider if it is worth that small percentage of efficiency gain. Oftentimes it's not. It's much better to just be able to get a new computer, sit down at any computer, and be able to be productive right away than to have to deal with customizing a new system right from the get-go. So if you made it all the way to the end of this video, what's the major takeaway? Well, quite simple. Avoid Dvorak, just stick with Qwerty. It'll be more efficient in the long run. You'll eliminate all these frustrations, but most importantly, hit that like and subscribe button. I'd really appreciate your support as I get this channel going.